Welcome to Get a Word In, a podcast about content marketing. I'm your host, Adam Walker. I'm passionate about sharing stories and knowledge through content, especially in the form of podcasting. In fact, I co-founded Edgewise.media, a podcast-first marketing content agency. On this show, I interview content marketers at some of the top companies in the world and discover what's working for them, what isn't, and most importantly, what's next. So stay tuned and get ready for some great content about content marketing. Joining me on the show today, I've got Roy Sexton. Roy is the Director of Marketing for Clark Hill, among other important roles that he plays that I'll let him tell you about. Roy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Man, this is going to be a fun conversation. But before we dive in, tell everybody about yourself. Like, who are you? What are you about? What are you working on? What do your days look like? And what other organizations do you help lead?
I don't think you have enough time for what my days look like. Not that I'm important. It's just like, boy, I don't know. I've been in legal marketing for the better part of a decade, working for 3 different law firms during that time. Prior to that, I was in healthcare. I was your typical liberal arts major. I was an English and theater major in college, got a master's in theater, and then thought, I want to eat. So talked my way into jobs, ended up working at Deloitte here in Detroit. It still baffles me that they hired me, but that led to other things, got into healthcare. And after about a decade in healthcare, I kind of moved up the ranks, strategic planning, and then got my MBA because my husband was like, could you get a degree that makes some sense? And when I got my MBA, they said, why don't you take over marketing? We like what you're doing in strategic planning. And I had said, well, I have had one marketing class. Do you mean this? And they said, yeah, you get it. It was a great run. I did 5 years of that. And then in 2011, I thought, you know what? I don't want to be pigeonholed as a healthcare guy forever. So let me just throw my resume out there. And quite frankly, naively and ego-driven, I was like, I want a better title. I was, corporate director of marketing and planning then. And I was like, I want to be a CMO. I want to be a vice president. And so I threw my resume out there in a local mortgage foreclosure firm. And I didn't realize that you're kind of working for the evil empire when you go work in mortgage foreclosure. They wanted me to be their VP of marketing. I'm like, yes. Yeah. And I thought, law firms, hospitals, how different can they be?
Sure.
Pretty different. Yeah. So that's when I got involved also in the Legal Marketing Association. And 10 years later, I'm their international president, which tells you what kind of organization it is. Not that they're desperate for talent, that, they really, it's a community that lets you grow and build. And I remember going to my first conference in Dallas in this kind of place. It was the Gaylord, looked like a biodome. And I'm like, this is weird, canals. And you never left for air.
Yeah.
But anyway, the president at the time, Alicia Suter, comes out on stage and there's all kinds of great production values. I'm on the front row, excited about it all. And I said to myself, I hope I get to do that one day. And I really put my nose to the grindstone, learned so much from the friends that I met through being part of the Legal Marketing Association and, was on Midwest board and different committees and things. And then, a few years ago, got tapped on the shoulder because it's kind of a long lead before you get into the president role. So I've been doing that for a year. And I've been at Clark Hill for 5 years. I really like the legal marketing space. After having been in healthcare, which is more consumer facing, I found it very interesting to work with attorneys because when you're marketing attorneys, and my relatives are all like, what do you do? What do lawyers need? And are you the mesothelioma guy? And I'm like, no, I'm with corporate attorneys. And your work is sort of invisible yet visible at the same time. What you're really trying to do, much like my Deloitte days, the attorneys get the credit for what business they bring in.
Right.
They get the origination credit. They get the ongoing revenue. So marketing is often sort of forgotten in the mix, and I'm fine with that. Yep. What I like is, being that mouse in Dumbo that gave him the feather and said you can fly. I feel like my job is to leverage content marketing, leverage thought leadership, leverage digital channels, get attorneys out of that. Because every firm I've gone to, they're like, we send chocolates every Christmas. It's really great. And I'm going, okay, we send out Oscars. I buy the best pies. And I'm like, I sponsor a rodeo. And I'm like, why? Well, because somebody told me that was good ones. And to get them off that toward, look, what I'm selling is what's in your brain, to some degree your personality, although I think attorneys put too much on that. They're like, I'm going to host a party. And I'm like, you maybe that's not.
Maybe you shouldn't do that. That seems like a bad idea. Nobody likes you. So.
How about shh, I want to keep my job. But, how about a panel discussion? How about some education? Because what we hear from the clients in our annual conference we just had, several of them, Peter Nguyen, Jody Truelove, and Arash Darudi were on the panel. And they all said to a one, please don't take me to a football game. Please don't make me go to a cocktail party. If you want to get to know me, fine. You can take me to dinner.
Right.
But one of them said most pointedly, how about you come visit me at my company? How
Right.
about
Yeah.
you take that time you want to take me golfing and come see what I do
Yep.
and learn who I am, and then provide extra value, provide that education I need, provide that content I need.
Love that.
Whether it's in your sort of multi-channel distribution or one-on-one. And I it's, we're all nodding because it should be evident, but people don't do that. They go all around the bend, all these other things that are a waste of time and money, when the simplest thing is, did you pick up the phone and say, hey, I have an article here I think would be helpful to your business?
That's it, man. So just be a person, be a friend,
Yep.
be a normal. That's great. I love that. Well, this is going to be a really good discussion, man. I can't wait to hear some of your thoughts. So let's start. Let me frame this up. So related specifically to content marketing, can you tell me, like, what do you think that's working right now?
It's not going to sound particularly groundbreaking because we laugh in legal. Law firms like to be first to be second. So they're not gonna sometimes seem to be doing the most groundbreaking stuff when you compare it to other industries and the marketing that's happening there, which I study and watch, and it fascinates me. I'm a big movie fan, entertainment fan, so I do steal a lot from those channels. Like, okay, let's create the buzz. Let's get the teaser out about the webinar. Let's make this webinar seem very, very exciting so that people want to be part of it. And then let's follow up afterward and show the behind the scenes and how we got there. So those are some of my bag of tricks. But for me, I think the old standby, which has worked for me pretty much for 10 years, is, at least in legal, pay attention to what's happening in the media around key issues that are in fact impacting your clients. Talk to your clients. Keep a notepad. These are not going to sound like the most cutting edge techniques, but keep a notepad, attorneys, by your computer. And that question you keep answering over and over and over that isn't billable and you're tired of answering it, write something about that. Record a quick video on that. Find different ways that you're comfortable. If you're a writer, write. If you're a podcaster, podcast. If you want to be on video, record a quick video. The pandemic, for all its awful impact, it turned things around into people's comfort with recording themselves, putting material out there. So for me as a law firm marketer, the thing that works is getting that insight out there in the zeitgeist for people to find in search, or then giving it to them directly. And then we do a lot around targeted advertising and all the things that people should do to make sure, what's the title, what's the geography, what's the industry we want to reach, and here's a video telling our story, or here's our new brand, or here's a webinar we're offering. So we do a lot of that behind the scenes to make sure it's reaching the right people. But I still need I need the story to tell. So you got to start there. And I also caution attorneys, they very much think they're a news service around legislative developments. I'm like, you're never going to win that battle. Whoever gets in the inbox first to say, oh, there's been a legislative change and here's a link.
Yeah.
I don't care.
It doesn't matter. That's right. Your clients don't care. They're not even noticing. No.
But if you can take 2 or 3 days, they're like, oh, I'll lose the opportunity. I'm like,
that's fine.
You'll take 2 or 3 days to respond to me asking what sandwich do you want next week, but you're going to rush this out. Take the time to figure out, what are your clients going to need to know about this development, and think narrow, because I think attorneys are always like, well, I want to cast as wide a net as possible and get all the people. Well, at the margins we're talking about in legal, you don't need to reach everybody.
Yeah.
You need to reach the right person who has the question at the time. So if something's developing, either, if you're a cyber attorney and you're like, boy, I just saw a data breach on CNN, don't just announce, oh, there's been a data breach. Okay,
right.
CNN covered that already. What does this mean for me?
Yep,
what could it mean?
Yep.
Take
could
the
I
time
be exposed
to
in that
that
data
out.
breach?
Yeah.
What types of people are exposed? Does this really matter?
Yeah. And, and I could talk about distribution channels. Like I said, we do account-based marketing through different partners where we do the banner ads and all the conventional stuff to make sure it's reaching the right targeted folks. We do a lot with our social media around targeting those posts to the right people and having the right content mix, where it's not just, because a lot of law firm socials are, we're a super lawyer, we're a best lawyer, look. And we still have to do that, right? We have to satiate the egos. And there is a nice element of, okay, you guys, because clients don't care about any of that crap. I hate to break it to you. They don't.
No.
But so we try to have a mix of thoughtful, helpful thought leadership that is of the moment intermixed with the awards and things.
Okay.
Video where we can be disruptive with that. We just did a Pride video where we're talking about what are our values as a firm and how are we committed to that in a substantive way, not a performative way.
Yeah.
Done some industry video. We will do podcasts. We have a number of different kind of venues we use, and we have that in our social media mix, and we target that to make sure it's interesting to people because it benefits on a couple of levels. There are clients who just want the information. There are clients who are interested in what your culture is like. Do you walk the talk?
Yep.
And then there's talent out there that might want to come work with you. And all of those are different revenue streams. So the lateral hires are the people that you're like, oh, I'm looking at your firm and what you're all about. And I see a mix of you won some accolades. You've got some substantive content out there. You're delivering it in different ways. And, oh, here's some culture stuff about who you are and what matters. And so we try to keep that in our mix. And we use, social media, content syndication, different channels to get that out there.
All right. So you did mention channels for a minute. So I'm going to skip my normal order for a minute. I have a really random question for you. So I follow a very obscure lawyer with an obscure thing on TikTok. And I'm curious if you heard of him. He calls himself the lock-picking lawyer. And all he does
I have to get my phone and look.
It's amazing. All he does is he's like, and here's the latest padlock that's supposed to be unhackable from so-and-so, and here's how you pick it. And he literally opens every kind of lock you can ever imagine, like so easily. It's daunting because like I'm watching and I'm like, why would we ever even lock anything? Like, what's even the point? Like, I don't even know. Why do we have locks? There's no reason. It's shocking how easy it is I don't even care about lock picking. I don't know what it is. It's mesmerizing to watch. It's so great. So anyway, look him up on TikTok, the lock picking lawyer. It's fantastic.
So 2 points I want to make. One, on your point about locks. My first apartment here in Metro Detroit, I locked myself out. I went to the local gym in our apartment complex and I locked myself out and I came back and I couldn't get maintenance to come let me in. Right. So my neighbor came downstairs with a butter knife and went into and I was like, oh, I don't feel. My neighbor can break. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But,
that's
to your point.
Yeah.
Like, why bother to lock anything? But I think the point that matters to your audience, if they're still watching, the lock picking lawyer, and I'm going to check that out because again, that is a niche and an angle that person has figured out. Now, I would be curious what kind of business they're getting, but probably what they're doing is creating general awareness of their name.
Yeah.
I do caution attorneys sometimes don't get too cute that you're so far from what you do.
Yeah. Well, this might just be a hobby for this guy. I don't really know.
It's just
he might
hobby,
do it just for fun.
But it's a great example because I've had some attorneys who came to me and they said, we need a TikTok. And of course, they said it like that. We need a TikTok. And I'm like, okay, what are you going to say? What do you want to say on TikTok? Well, isn't that marketing? Isn't that for you to tell me what I should say? And I'm going, okay, we're in trouble. And I said, well, you also know to make that work, you have to be ready to record something almost every day and God forbid, engage with other people. And you have to do it in a way that's unique, quick, concise, and gives an angle. That's how TikTok works. It's why dance videos and things resonate so well on there. So I think it does take a particular mindset and the right attorney who has that kind of narrow focus and enough cheek and guile and moxie to say, you know what, this is something I love to do. One of the things I do when I do public speaking is I often will start with a song because I like singing.
Nice.
And it makes me comfortable to sing. Might make the audience uncomfortable, but it creates this sort of moment of what the hell's happening up there. And a friend of mine, Laura Gassner-Rotting, says, you don't have to be brave for 60 minutes when you talk. You have to be brave for 60 seconds.
That's right.
I'll wear something zany. I will, got my controversial Target Pride shirt. I do things that kind of break the ice.
Yeah.
And then I get into the substance of what I'm doing. So I think if you're going to use TikTok or to a lesser degree, Instagram or some of those other more visually oriented platforms, you have to think differently than the way you're using LinkedIn.
Big time.
You have to say, am I a singer? Am I a lock picker? Am I a this? And show that personal side of yourself. But then find a way to crosswalk that to whatever you're trying to do to drive your revenue.
Well, or you have to have like something that's such a unique sort of shtick that it just like there's another guy that I and we're digressing here and I'll bring us back in a minute, but there's another guy I follow. He's called Jose Monkey, and people will send him a quick selfie video and they'll just pan around and say, "Okay, Jose Monkey, where am I?" And like they'll just be in some random parking lot, and like it looks like nothing, and he will methodically track down exactly where they are. Like, oh, you're in the Target parking lot in this city, right next to this gas station, and we saw. And he like breaks down the whole bit, and he does it actually to raise awareness about how easy it is to locate where a video is shot. So you should kind of be careful about what you put on the internet if you don't want your location found. Yeah. And that's why he does it. But it's shocking how good this guy is at finding people. It's wild.
But it's an angle. It's a distinct angle. And any marketing you do, whether it's for a law firm or wherever, we as marketers have to then say to the person, what audience are you trying to reach? What assets do you have? Yeah. What insight can you provide? And then come to a place and then stick with it and stay the course. You know, right. I've had attorneys that will start a podcast and they record 2 episodes and they're like, I didn't get anything out of this. I'm like, you got to keep doing it.
And you gotta, podcast is a long play, man.
Yeah. And you got to think opportunistically, and you've got to figure out how to bring on guests who will cross promote what you're doing and maybe bring you on there. You got to think about that the way you would think about, you used to think about the country club or the golf league or whatever. It's what are the relationships virtually and digitally I'm bringing? And I think TikTok is an interesting example, and one that will continue to evolve, because I think we've all been through the mire of social media that is toxic. And we've seen different, you know, Twitter's the toxic one right now. A couple years ago, it was Facebook. Now Facebook's corny and old, but it's still got a lot of people there. So it's like, you know, it's like CBS. There's a lot of people there, so you might still want to be present. LinkedIn seems to always be the kind of the steady Eddie. But it's going to vary, and you have to figure out how to modify what you're doing. There's a woman I follow. She's on TikTok and Instagram. CSA Punch, I think, is her name, and she's about my age. And she loves music of the 80s and 90s, and she's a dentist.
Nice. Yep.
But what has happened to her is now she's got like 3 million followers. She's popping up on TV shows. Things happen because she'll do these videos of her cleaning or cooking or being a dentist set to no scrubs or something, and she's just dancing, and her joy is manifest, and you want to get to know her, and there's such a consistent way she's doing it. And that's what I would say to lawyers. You would look at that and go, that's so silly, or I want to do all the things. No,
I gotta do one thing.
That one thing that you're really, really passionate about that humanizes you, and then use that to have people go, well, this person's a dentist. Maybe I want to get my teeth cleaned by her. She seems fun, you know?
Yeah. I mean, my wife follows a neurosurgeon. Same thing. She's a neurosurgeon. She does all these really interesting TikToks and so. And like my wife follows her and is fascinated by her. Like, okay, that's cool. Works for you.
Yeah. And if you follow one last point on this, if you follow the cultural thread we've been on, I'm a fan of Thomas Friedman and different people who say, let's look at the whole picture. You know, you are younger than I probably, but I grew up in an era where there were no smartphones, barely had computers, up to a point I had an Atari 2600. And then suddenly reality television hit with Real World and Survivor in the year 2000. And that was the novelty for a while. Well, those television programs conditioned us to break down all barriers. Even if they're curated and edited, it gives the impression that I have a peek into your world. So from our entertainment, we've come to a point after 25 years of that kind of content. Now our delivery mechanisms on social media and other places, people are conditioned to say, I want to see into your world. I want to know what you're all about. And I think that's why TikTok and Instagram and different things have taken hold like they have, because we're all egomaniacs. We all want people to know who we are and what we do all day. But we are also conditioned from programming and television and other things to now go, oh, I have a right to understand and know what's going on behind the scenes in your world. And so if you use the channels effectively, you bring people into that world, and then they say, I want to work with you. I want to know more about you. But
got it. Okay. Wow. That's a great insight. I appreciate you sharing that. It's fantastic. All right. So then back on the content marketing thread, rather than the like philosophical one, I suppose, what's not working? Like what were you doing 2 years ago that you're not doing now, for example?
Yeah. I mentioned the thinking you're a news service versus providing insight. I will all day long say that. Also, what's not working in the legal space is when attorneys, and this is deep baseball if you're working in-house as a legal marketer, attorneys who don't cross-collaborate with other attorneys in the firm when they're creating that content. Yes, there are superstar authors who put material out there and they're the individual, but the most effective alerts, webinars, things that I see are where we've really manifested the global scale we have as a firm. And an attorney in Texas is collaborating with one in Chicago and somebody in Pittsburgh, and they're writing together or they're putting a webinar on together. And it's showing that cross-pollination, because what we hear from clients is, yes, I like to work with individuals, but more I want to work with a team of people that you can draw upon. So I'm not relying on one individual to solve all my legal problems. They have other people on the bench that help them out. So I think content marketing that illustrates that when you're in a firm is important. I think the other thing I've seen grow cold for obvious reasons are webinars. I think we all got webinar crazy in 2020, and it was great because it did put cold water on the stuff that I find that just doesn't work, golf outings and social events and things like that. They just weren't available. And it took a while for the attorneys in our case to say, yes, I'm going to do a webinar. Well, then there was a period of time they wanted to do webinar series. And I'm like, you're not Beyonce. They don't want to see you week after week. They want to see you when you have something to say.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think people have started voting with their feet. And I'm trying to get the attorneys to think more around, give me some bespoke recorded content where you summarize what it is and people can watch it on demand. Again, our entertainment lives, we're used to now. I don't have to just flip through channels and see if I want to watch something. I go to Netflix and I watch this and I watch it when I want to. I think when people were stuck in their basements, yes, I'll sign up for webinars all day long. But now they're like, I don't want to sit through that for an hour. I've got places to go, things to do. So distill that down. And I'll hear the attorneys say, well, I want a webinar because I want to have interaction with the people. And I'm like, well, how are you interacting with them? I have a polling question. And I'm like, okay, that's not really interacting with them. If you want to have a roundtable conversation live, great. Otherwise, just set up your Zoom, record the thing. We can edit it and put it out there and then track how many views it gets and make sure it's targeted to the right people. So, I feel like the other thing is not working for us anyway, is we're challenged around CRM and some things currently as a firm. And so I rely on my old, more advertising techniques just to let's get it out there. Let's create presence and awareness. But I find with some of the channels, and I know there's solutions for this that people could sell me on, tracking in a way that does not put too much burden on the viewer, who's viewing and where they are and why. I think that's still a bit of a struggle bus for us in legal because we are doing more video, but it's just out there. And the call to action, again, people have webinar fatigue. They're worried about people finding out where they are and putting too much information online. And I've found that they don't always want to sign up for things that you put on social media. They will if you send them a bespoke email that says, hey, I'd love you to come to this. But anymore, they don't just sign up for stuff randomly because they don't want you to have their information. So I think with cookies and GDPR and other things, it's making it increasingly difficult for marketers to capture some of that information when you're doing a lot of content marketing. But I know there are people who've solved that problem already, and I should talk to them, but I think that's hard. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it just comes back to great content, really. I mean, that's it, right? Like if you can create the content your potential clients want, I mean, that's the magic. Yeah. That's the magic.
And I think the other thing I would suggest, and this goes to, again, my entertainment background and my love of comic books and things, if you're a marketer, don't fixate on each piece of content being compelling. Some of it's going to suck because you have to honor a lot of masters in legal. But if your mix is compelling, they might take a chance on some of the more boring stuff because you've got some interesting other things that are leading them to kind of check out the whole kind of bullpen of what you have to offer.
That's it. That's great. So our last question, if you were forced to focus on just one component, one area of content marketing for, I don't know, say a month, what one thing would you double down on right now?
If I'm in legal, I would focus on your PR media strategy. And it is my predisposition, but I find it creates a wealth of content then you can use and repurpose in a lot of different ways. So if you've got a good, strong PR media strategy and you're really focused not on what you want to tell, but what people want to hear, track where there are, is there a Supreme Court decision coming? Is there, again, some industry issue percolating? And work with a good media consultant to say, I need you to pitch my 3 or 4 attorneys on this. I want them to be a source or be tasked to write an article or be interviewed, and get 4 or 5 pieces of content out of one pitch. And then turn back to your social media and your other channels, and then don't be afraid to leverage that and re-leverage it. I sometimes struggled with that on our own team. They're like, well, I posted that once. Okay. Why, when Marvel's rolling on a new movie, they run that Ant-Man commercial every 10 minutes. So,
every 10 minutes, man. You post it once and 10% of your followers see it? If you're lucky, 5%? Post it a bunch of times.
Right. Yeah. So post it a lot, especially it's evergreen. And so if you're doing the media strategy right, The attorney has spent enough, they have a 20-minute call with a couple different writers. Let's say 2 or 3 articles come out of that. You now have 2 or 3 pieces of content. The attorney put 20 minutes in. Now put that out, tag the attorney, get it out there multiple times. Even if it's the same topic, keep posting it, keep sharing it, and encourage your attorney. Again, law is a little different than others. That attorney's going to get the credit for the clients they bring in. So attorneys suddenly get really shy about certain things. They're like, well, can't marketing send that out? Can't marketing post that? And I'm like, we can, and we will. But now it's up to you to reshare that.
That's right. Amplify
so
it.
Again, I'd start, if you don't have a lot of writers in your midst, if you don't have a lot of content generators, let the media machine create that content, but then don't just go, okay, we got an article and let it lay. Repurpose it on your own channels. And then don't forget your internal audience as well. Every law firm I've worked at, I start and they say, marketing's not doing anything. Nothing's happening. And I go, okay. And I just start putting together some kind of, and this is so low rent. I'll put together a weekly newsletter that's just, here's all the media mentions we got last week.
Yep.
Because the attorneys are too busy or too self-important to pay attention to that. Yep. And when you put it in front of them over and over, then you start to get the spirit of competition. They're like, wow, you're getting a lot done. I'm like, well, this is happening anyway. I just happen to be capturing it. Right. And then they're like, well, how can I get on that list? How can I go? Okay, work with me.
Here's how we do it. Yeah.
So I may be unusual, but I'd focus on PR media or media relations really first.
No, it makes perfect sense from the legal, large law firm perspective.
From what I do.
Yeah.
Someone who's selling tennis shoes, or they'd have a different perspective, I'm sure.
And that's why I like to interview tons of different people, because we're all marketers that are all coming at this from completely different perspectives. Mm-hmm. And I like to get a much broader overview of content marketing, what's working in each different avenue.
And I probably lean into my own predispositions. Advertising does not work for legal. No one is going to hire a mergers and acquisition attorney because they saw a billboard.
That's true,
and
man.
I get these people who try to sell me television advertising and radio advertising. And sometimes the attorneys are like, I think I should put an ad in this baseball stadium. I'm like, who's going to be there?
Right.
So content marketing for legal, corporate legal is central. Yes, there are events. Yes, there's social stuff. But at the end of the day, we are selling intellectual capability. The best way to do that is by getting content out there in any damn way you can think to do so.
That's it. I love it. All right, let me recap us then. Related to content marketing, what's working? You said law firms like to be first to be second. You like to steal from movies and entertainment, so take from their playbook and see what's working for mass audience. Pay attention to current media and issues that are impacting your clients, and you tell lawyers to keep notes, write this down, and track what questions they're answering on a regular basis, and then create content about those questions, answering those questions, whether it's video or written or whatever else. Then you said you're doing a little bit of targeting advertising, still need the story to tell. So it's still always about storytelling and connecting to people. Knowing what clients need to know, that's a part of the big story. So it's not just reporting news, because that's pointless for you, but understanding what their clients need to know about the news and how it's actually going to impact them. For what isn't working, thinking that your news service isn't working. There's plenty of news services out there. We don't need more. We've got probably too many, I think, at this point. Attorneys don't tend to cross-collaborate with others in the firm, but they would do well to do so. You also mentioned that webinars were just killed by 2020, and I totally agree. And that tracking video and some of that stuff is really a struggle. For channels, you mentioned you do account-based marketing, and social media with targeted posts towards specific audiences is working really well. And then for focus, you said in the legal space, you would focus on a PR media strategy. You would create content from that strategy that you can then repurpose and use several times over. You'd also have attorneys post and repost content from the firm itself. And just in general, repurposing content is really important. And being able to take a big chunk of content and repurpose it for lots of different reasons is important. And then lastly, you gave a fantastic promo for legalmarketing.org. And I'm going to check out that, legalmarketing.org, to our listeners. If you want to check it out, I'm going to check it out myself. So
a couple different points I want to make. If you're working with professionals, and I think this applies to lawyers, it does apply to doctors, working with accountants, consultants, take the inventory of that human and what they're comfortable doing. Some people are comfortable being on camera. Some people are comfortable writing. Some people are comfortable interviewing. Don't push them into something they're not comfortable doing, because they'll be bad at it and then they will ghost out on you. So figure that out first and work with them. And the other thing I urge marketers to work with their lawyers and doctors, whomever. Social media is a great megaphone. But sometimes it's also great just to acknowledge what other people are doing. Attorneys will tell you all day long it's about relationships, but then they're terrible about acknowledging what their clients are posting. And we are in an age where it's like, I had quiche for breakfast and here's my dog. Go in there and say, your dog is cute.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved it.
And here's the place you should go get quiche. If you love quiche, go down the street to this place. Have you checked that out?
Right. And if you're uncomfortable sharing your own content, then don't. Yeah. But at least go in and acknowledge what other people are doing, because I think you will be shocked. A friend of mine, Jay Harrington, says it's scalable. You can do it in your own time. It's asynchronous communication. So use those social media channels. Get your short list of people you want to check in with periodically and see what they're posting, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever, and comment on that. And they will remember you when you do have an ask of them. When you do want to pitch business, they're going to go, gosh, that person always likes and comments on my stuff. And
just
I really
stay in their lives.
That.
Just stay in people. That's all you got to do is you just have to stay in people's lives at a meaningful level, and they will always think of you when they need you. That's the ticket.
Hey, can I put in a plug for the Legal Marketing Association?
Of course. Yeah, please, yeah.
The Legal Marketing Association, we have 4,000 members worldwide. A lot of people who do what I do, but we have lawyers that are members, people who are in operational roles, things like that. What I would recommend to people, if they're interested in the legal marketing space, either by being a service provider to us, selling to us, or you're in the position of professional services marketing, check out some of our offerings. You don't have to be a member to do so. You can join a meetup. You can check out some of our online content. And then if you find that you attend a regional conference and you really like what you see, then become a member and you gain access to our shared interest groups, which we have that are thematic. They're DEI, PR, a lot of different content areas. And you will find that people who are in your job or jobs like yours are willing to share their best practices with each other. And it's been an incredibly transformative association for me to be a part. And I would be remiss as president if I didn't, check out, legalmarketing.org. We do good stuff and we're fun. You might have picked up our conference was in Hollywood, Florida in April, and I'm gay. It's hence the shirt. People were giving me a hard time. Like, how could you have a conference in Florida? And I'm like, dude, this was determined years ago. And I was already, I went on stage and I said, I want to sing Born This Way. I always wanted to do that anyway. And and I was 8:30 in the morning, head to toe sequins, ruby red slippers. And I said, I need a drag queen. And they said, for what? And I said, well, at the second verse, Athena Dion's going to come out. And it's not going to be a political statement, but it's going to be a statement of inclusion, and that we're the kind of organization will have a drag queen on stage at 8:30 in the morning to start our conferences. So I share that just to say we're fun. Yeah. We're willing to make a statement, and we're willing to learn and work hard. So, check us out if anyone's interested. Okay, back to you.
Roy, this has been amazing. I'm going to have you back on the show, man. This has been too much fun. I got to do this again. So I'm going to hit you up, but for right now, I'll let you go.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks for listening to Get a Word In, brought to you by Edgewise.media, a podcast-first marketing content agency. To learn more about Edgewise, visit www.edgewise.media. I'm your host, Adam Walker. To connect with me, check out my blog at adamjwalker.com. Thanks for listening, and make sure to subscribe now so you don't miss our next great conversation about content marketing.